In the night, I answered her husband's call. They say every hotel room has a secret that only reveals itself when the window fogs. I used to think that was romantic nonsense, a line people used to excuse the things they decided to do after midnight. Then came the night at the Maraway, the night I said yes to a door that should have stayed shut, and a voice on the phone that wasn't hers. I'm not a detective. I shoot hotel campaigns and boutique interiors for magazines that pretend everyone lives in rooms with iron sheets and lights that taste like honey. I know how to make a lobby look like a promise. That's how I met Clara, a promise in heels, the event planner who could turn a conference of bored insurance brokers into something that felt like a gala. She had the skill most people envy and few notice, the way she watched a room breathe. We weren't supposed to be anything. She hired me for a shoot. We worked late, and one night the rain came down like it was angry with the city. She took off her ring and put it on my bedside table with a tiny, tired exhale, like the sound you make when a shoe finally fits. Her husband, Anton, owned a slice of the city you could see from space. Hotels, clubs, a riverfront strip that looked like a necklace in drone footage. He had that polished charm rich men use when they want to be mistaken for gentlemen. I never met him. When I asked Clara why, she just smiled at the ceiling and said, "Because he hires people to meet people for him." On Tuesday, she sent me a voice note that was only 3 words, Room 604. Her voice was low enough to count as a conspiracy. No emojis, no heart, no name. It shouldn't have felt like an invitation. It felt like gravity. The Maraway's lobby smelled like basil and money. There was a jazz trio that sounded like it had just read my browser history. I told the front desk I was there to scout locations for a shoot, true enough, and rode the elevator with a bellman who pretended not to notice my heartbeat. Room 604 waited with its eye closed. I knocked once. The lock clicked and the door opened an inch as if it had changed its mind. Clara stood in a silk blouse the color of an apology. No ring. Her hair was wet. She had that freshly showered glow that makes bad ideas feel baptized. She kissed my cheek softly, like we'd been at this longer than we had, and nodded toward the window where the city frayed into glitter. "Don't talk yet," she said. "Just listen." I listened. I could hear the room's quiet hum, the vent, the elevator core 2 walls over and something else, like an insect trapped behind glass. She led me to the desk. There was a small black audio recorder tucked under a stack of menus. She lifted the menus. The recorder flashed a red light. "I found it an hour ago," she said. "The maid left the menus crooked. Anton has people who do this, or someone wants me to think he does." "Who else would?" I asked. She tilted her head like a bird trying to remember a song. "There's a zoning vote Friday. If it goes his way, he breaks ground on the Riverwalk project and makes another 100 million. The council president is staying down the hall tonight, the one who pretends to hate him. This room is supposed to be empty. I booked it as a private office for the florist and told no one. Someone is collecting souvenirs. There's a way to touch a button like you're afraid it might bite. I touched the recorder like that. It was hot, almost warm enough to feel like a pulse. The SD card slot was sealed with clear tape. The tape bore the faint imprint of a thumb I didn't want to think about matched to a name. I slid the recorder into my pocket and glanced at the ceiling corners. "No other eyes," I said, "just this one ear." She laughed once too lightly, the sound you make when you're pretending none of it matters. "You always notice things," she said. "That's why I called you. YouTube won't let you say much, so let me say only this. We fit together like a secret that had been waiting for a throat to live in. We held back from the edges we couldn't cross in words, and we weren't shy with the ones we could. Her hands were a map I didn't deserve. I kissed her shoulder where the silk slid down and tasted salt and hotel soap. We didn't go further than that. Some nights want to be cliffhangers. It was almost midnight when my phone vibrated with a number I didn't recognize. I silenced it. It buzzed again, then again, insistent as a door someone refuses to leave. Clara raised an eyebrow. I shrugged and answered. I shouldn't have. That is the moment in every story like mine, the instant where restraint would have rewritten everything. Mark, a man said. He said my name like we'd been introduced and he had paid for the privilege. The line was clear, expensive. I'm sorry to call so late. Who is this? I asked. That depends, he said. If I tell you I'm a friend, will you lie to me? If I tell you I'm a stranger, will you hang up? The goose flesh came first, then the cold. Anton, I said. He chuckled the way men chuckle over chessboards when the same trap works on everyone. I see why she likes you. You're quick. Clara froze like a photograph. I held the phone away just enough to let her read the name I'd mouthed. She didn't blink. We stood like that, two statues, a lifeline between us that wanted to behave like a wire. What do you want? I asked. Not much, he said. Only to make sure you leave with the right thing. I don't have anything, I said, and it was almost true. I had a recorder that didn't belong to me and a woman who definitely didn't. He took my silence and filled it with his own, the way rich people decorate empty apartments. You're charismatic for a photographer, he said. Most prefer to hide behind lenses. Listen carefully, Mark. There are two card slots in those devices, the obvious one and the one you miss when you're in a hurry. Remove both. Put them in the black envelope in the ice bucket. Walk them to the service elevator. There's a man named Silas who will press 5 twice and meet you halfway. If you don't, a fire door will alarm and this night will get very public for two people who like privacy. It wasn't panic that hit me so much as the feeling of gravity doubling in the space of a breath. I glanced at the recorder. I hadn't seen the second slot. I flipped it over, saw a seam by the battery door pressed and a hidden bay clicked. A second, slimmer card sat like a secret that had been waiting to be found. I hated him for being right. I hated him for knowing my name. How do I know this isn't the part where your man breaks my fingers? I asked. You don't, he said. But if that were the plan, we wouldn't be speaking. People break for free. Silence is expensive. He paused, his voice softening by the degree your hand softens when you place it at the base of someone's skull. Mark, do me this courtesy and I won't call you again. She won't either if she has any sense. Consider that a kind of mercy. The line went dead. It felt like a door locking. Clara exhaled and sat slowly on the edge of the bed as if the floor had moved. He never calls, she whispered. He has other mouths for talking. If he called you, he thinks you're dangerous. Or useful, I said. She smiled without mirth. Same thing to him. I looked at the envelope in the ice bucket. I looked at Clara's bare ring finger. I looked at my own hands, steady because I decided they would be. Somewhere down the hall, a champagne cork popped like a period. I need to meet this Silas, I said. Or we go out the front and pretend we were never here, she said, hopeful enough to break me and strong enough not to show it. We can pretend tomorrow, I said and kissed her forehead. Tonight we borrow being careful. The service corridor was a spine of locked doors and quiet. The elevator there had a mirror polished to a smudge. I pressed 5 twice. The car sighed down. The doors opened to reveal a man who looked like he'd been grown in a closet just for this job. Tailored black suit, clean jaw, eyes like off switches. He had no interest in me, only in the envelope in my hand. Silas, I said. He nodded once at the envelope, not at me. Thank you for your cooperation. I stepped in. He didn't move back. The box felt too small. The car dimmed and the soft, waltz-like hotel music was replaced by an elegant hush. He held out a gloved hand. I didn't pass the envelope. Instead, I looked at the tiny dome in the corner where the elevator's camera sat. I smiled and stepped close enough that it would capture our faces in the same frame. Let witnesses make cowards of us both. "Your boss called me," I said. "Tell him I listened." "You have something else," Silas said. The words were flat, but the air around them was. "I do," I said, "because lying to a man like him is like lying to a dog about whether a ball exists. He can smell the idea." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the first card, the obvious one. I placed it on his palm as if it were my last coin. He took it, slid it into his jacket, and the elevator began moving again, halting on floor 5 like a thought that had decided to behave. The doors opened onto a beige corridor that smelled like coffee and carpets. He didn't get out, he didn't move. Neither did I. The doors began to close. He stopped them with a single finger, as careful as if they were lips. "Thank you," he said. I let the doors close on his face. It would have been almost funny if my shoulders weren't made of electricity. Back in the room, I handed Clara the second card, the thin one he hadn't asked for, and set the recorder on the desk. "This one holds what he really wanted," I said. "The first is to make you think you're safe." "You're sure?" she asked. "I'm a man who stares at pixels for a living," I said. "People like Anton always leave themselves a back door. If he trusted Silas with the real thing, he wouldn't need the theater." "What do we do?" she asked. "Choose the size of the explosion," I said. "If we leak it, the vote goes to hell and you go with it. He'll say you staged it, call you vindictive, parade your receipts. If we keep it, we live long enough to hate ourselves." She stood and came to me, resting her forehead under my chin. We were careful with our hands and careless with the way we breathed. "There's a third option," she said into my shirt. "We give it to someone who can't be bought." "I don't know anyone like that," I said. "You do," she said, pulling back. "You." It was absurd. It was also almost right. I opened my bag and slid the thin card into a metal case I keep for my own backups, the little coffin where I bury my mistakes. "If I keep it," I said, "I become the thing he wanted to make you, leverage." "You become the man who gets to choose," she said. We didn't sleep. We drank the minibar's worst coffee and watched the window fog and clear and fog again. Outside, the river cut midnight into ribbons. At 4, Clara's phone lit with a message from a contact saved only with an emoji of a diamond. "Don't be late tomorrow. Wear navy." She turned the screen over and exhaled something that sounded like resignation. At 6, I walked out through the kitchen, past chefs slicing fruit into obedient shapes. No one looked at me. That's the magic of a hotel kitchen. You could carry a piano through at sunrise and no one would blink as long as you kept to the right lane. I took the long way home and the longer way to a rented studio where I do my own retouching. I made a copy of the thin card, just one, and dropped it into a locked folder behind an innocuous name, Draft Curtains V3. The original went into the metal case. I slid the case under a loose floorboard where dust keeps its own counsel. By noon, the city remembered how to be cruel. An email from an unknown sender landed in my inbox with 2 sentences. "We appreciate discretion. You'll receive a deposit for your next campaign by end of day." The signature was no one's and belonged to everyone. I closed the laptop and waited for the transfer I wouldn't keep. Gains that come with collars aren't gains at all. At 3, Clara called. She never called during daylight. Her voice was clean, professional, and threaded with the kind of tremor you learn to hide in this city. "Thank you," she said, "for last night, for not making me say it out loud." "What are you going to do?" I asked. "Wear navy," she said, and then, after a breath, "and file a request for a week off. If he asks why, I'll tell him I need to see my mother. He respects mothers more than wives." "And us," I said. She was quiet. Then, "We belong to windows fogged on purpose, Mark. That doesn't make it small, it makes it ours." After we hung up, my phone buzzed with a transfer notification. I redirected the money to a legal aid fund a friend runs on weekends out of a church basement. It was petty. It also felt like calling a storm and asking it to start small. At nightfall, the Riverwalk lit up like a line of candles at a vigil. The council president posted a photograph of himself shaking hands with a union leader and wrote a caption about transparency that made my teeth ache. Anton didn't post anything. Men like him never do. They let other people post about them. I didn't destroy the card. I didn't leak it either. Some nights you keep things alive simply by refusing to let anyone else own them. The thin card sits under my floor, patient still. Sometimes I think I can hear it when the building settles, a tick like a small heart, reminding me I chose the long, boring bravery over the quick, cinematic kind. Weeks later, I shot another hotel. New lobby, same perfume of basil and ambition. A man brushed past me and said my name like it tasted expensive. I turned and saw Sela's. No suit tonight, a sweater, a face that could disappear into a crowd the way a knife disappears into a drawer. "You did a clever thing," he said softly, which is not a compliment so much as a diagnosis. Clever things keep people interesting. "I'm trying to be boring," I said. He smiled with his eyes in the way wolves don't. "We'll see," he said, and melted into the revolving doors. I texted Clara a photograph of the lobby's chandelier, a galaxy of crystal that pretended gravity didn't exist. She replied with a blue heart and nothing else. That is our language now. Things that mean what we need without daring to say it. If you're waiting for guilt, you'll be disappointed. I don't feel guilt. I feel weight. There's a difference. Guilt looks backward. Weight keeps you grounded. I'll take the second. And when the window fogs, I remember the recorder's tiny breath of heat in my palm, and the unknown space between the words in a voice note from a woman who knows how to make a room hold its breath. I remember a husband who called me to teach me where the hidden slot lives, and I think of all the places he'll never look. Under floorboards, inside silence, in the parts of me that refuse to be hired. Every hotel room has a secret that reveals itself when the window fogs. Ours revealed something else. The moment we decided what kind of people we wanted to be. Not saints. Not thieves. The kind who keep a thin card safe in the dark and let the city guess why its heart keeps skipping in the middle of the night.